Everyone, welcome to the morning meeting. This is the two-way platform, and this is your opportunity to follow the news right along with us. It's a bouncing ball today. Lots going on around the world and here at home. Sean, Dan, welcome in. How was your weekend, Sean?
Feel like it was an hour short of where I thought I'd be.
Can't imagine why that is. Dan, how about you?
It was great. The weekend was terrific, and I'm just bummed it isn't light at 5:30 in the morning anymore.
Well, I will say we finally got Christmas put away this weekend, which is a huge accomplishment for March.
Sean, who's your early pick for men's NCAA basketball champion?
Absolutely.
Who's your early pick? Absolutely.
Dan, I'm going to define. I'm
who's your early pick?
Dan? I'm gonna say this may be the year that yeah I'm gonna take the field versus those top four ACC or SEC and Duke. I think they're all going to get upset this year.
Huh. Think UConn? Wait, you don't think UConn gets upset?
Duke.
No, it's Auburn. I think Florida,
Alabama,
Tennessee, and I'm missing someone else. In Duke are like clearing away the top
Alabama,
teams.
Alabama,
yeah, and Alabama, and I think they all end up going down.
I was born not liking Duke, so
yeah. Sean, the new media pool today.
Yes.
Epic Times. Explain to people what that means.
Well, first of all, there's always been this controversy. I was actually last year solved at their Christmas party, epoch versus epic.
Yeah.
It is epic. You pronounced it correctly. It's like,
yeah.
It's been around. It's got some interesting origins, but it's been around on the right for quite some time, taken off in the last 10 years, I think, in terms of notable, but it's got an online and hard copy subscription base. It's grown on the conservative right side in the last several years, but interesting that they're there.
All right. If you want in on the conversation, please raise your electronic hand.
By the way, I know we're not showing it. OAN is the secondary as well.
Yes, that's right.
I did my homework.
Yes, sir. If you're on the two-way platform and you want to be in the conversation, please raise your hand. As always, we welcome new folks, especially. And if you're watching on YouTube or X, please, peace, love, and understanding, and the presumption of grace to all if you write things in the chat. And as they say, don't put smack in the chat. All right, scheduled today. President has 3 events listed on his schedule that are all currently closed press. If passed as prologue, not all of them will remain closed press. 2 o'clock, a roundtable with Technology CEO Council. The names I've seen are from blue chip establishment tech firms that are the pride of America. Well, I don't know the full list, but it's the ones I've seen are not surprising. Then he signs executive orders at 3, and then at 5, he swears in the new head of the Secret Service. Again, I'm sorry, he doesn't swear them in. He holds the ceremonial. Yeah. Again, we'll see what ends up being open. And of course,
you want to bet on this right now? I think we go 3 for 3.
I say we go 3 for 3 too. So no betting. We'll have full coverage of those events and the rest of today's news tonight at 5 p.m. Eastern time, 6 p.m. Eastern time rather, on Two-Way Tonight, sponsored by the Bahnsen Group. The Vice President is addressing the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference today. Elon Musk, 4 o'clock. He is on the Fox Business Channel with a fella named Kudlow. Again, full coverage of that tonight. Bobby Kennedy, a.k.a. RFKJ, meets with food industry executives, and then he, too, is appearing on a Fox cable property. He's on a little program that we call Hannity at 9 o'clock.
The Bobby thing, he'll be joined by Lee Zeldin, and I wouldn't be surprised if a couple others, but this is going to be really interesting, this big food meeting. It's being pushed a lot by the Maha folks. I think this is going to be a real interesting, the readout afterwards. I mean, not that there's a public one, but what gets said about this, I think, will be fascinating. What approach, what tone is taken with these processed food makers, especially.
Well, but I mean, this is a fascinating issue because my Jared Polis worked on this when I was in Congress, and we got a lot of pushback from people in the Congressional Black Caucus and from whose districts are pretty rural that, it's all fun and games, but asking people to pay a lot more for food is not something they wanted to do. And it's going to be a rub.
Yeah, I think
pushing
part
for
of this
healthier outcomes and the cost.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, it's kind of like the China thing where people go, I hate China, but I'm going to go to Walmart and buy all sorts of cheap Chinese goods. The difference is, I think that one of the things that I think separates this issue from where it was in the past is the transparency.
Yep.
right? I've been, when you buy something and you're told, oh, well, it's organic or it's not bad for you. And you find out now that there's a lot of these dyes and things. And I know that people on this program have addressed this before, but I think part of this is, maybe it's not banning them, but it's, you got to have greater transparency. You've got to tell people what's in them, whether it's seed oils or other things. So I think that's why I'm saying the tone and tenor coming out of this, is it a full-on attack, or is it, hey, you guys need to do more to explain to consumers what's in there? Or, or is there some kind of hybrid approach?
All right. Middle East today, two big talks. In Doha, the Palestinians and the Israelis are speaking. Hamas, I should say, and the Palestinians are speaking. And later in the week, the U.S. president's a representative will show up. He's not there today because he's got two jobs, and he's in Saudi Arabia. Guys, how long do you think it takes to drive from Saudi Arabia to Doha? How long do you think it takes to drive?
Well, a long time. It's also very barren and boring.
How long? How long do you think Google Maps says the drive is?
12
I
hours.
have no concept of space.
About 9.5 hours, and it's a toll road according to Google Maps. I don't know what you pay that toll in, but anyway,
if you have the easy pass that from 95,
it works there. Awesome.
The Sun Pass, by the way, the Floridians,
Florida,
do not bring that.
Yeah, that thing won't work.
Do you think it's like the Autobahn? There's no speed limit. You can
There's definitely no speed limit.
I've done it.
Okay.
I mean, not the full drive, but it's actually, you can go pretty fast.
Yeah. Anyway, in Saudi Arabia, Zelensky is meeting with the prince, or whatever he's called now. Was he still a prince?
I think he's the crown prince, right?
Crown prince. And in theory, he's not hanging around to meet with the U.S. delegation. His deputies are, but I bet he stays. And the National Security Advisor, moments ago, according to X, Jennifer Jacobs of CBS News reports, the National Security Advisor arrived, and Rubio will be there, and the president's special envoy. So big week in the Middle East for those negotiations. Senate Republicans, Ways and Means, are meeting today to try to hash out what they're going to do about taxes. That is kind of on a back burner, even though they're meeting today and Wednesday, while they deal this week primarily with the question of the two-step process. Can the House Republicans on their own, almost certainly, pass the CR, continuing resolution, to kick the can down the road to September? And if that happens, what will happen in the Senate, where they need to get at least 7 and probably 8 Democrats to pass the House blueprint? So, Dan, let's assume the House passes it, and there's an extremely high degree of confidence that they will. Who are 8 Democratic senators who might vote for this? And is this something that Schumer blesses, or are they going to go against Schumer's wishes? Where are the Senate Democrats on supporting a bill to avoid a shutdown?
I think there will be more than 8 Senate Democrats that vote for it. I think you may hit double digits, and it's not a very complicated process. You look at the map, you look at those swing states and the Democrats that represent them or who are up in 2026, people like Jeanne Shaheen in New Hampshire, Mark Warner down in Virginia, the Minnesota senator that's open. And then in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, the 2 senators in Georgia, I think Democrats will vote for this. I think the stunt of last Tuesday, hurts the cause for those who want them to hold the line. I think this is not the time in the party to kind of draw this line and try to have a fight. And I think Schumer knows it, and they move on.
Well, just before Sean weighs in, are you saying Schumer votes for it too?
No.
But he blesses some number. I'm really surprised at your answer, Sean.
I mean, I'm writing as I talk. I think I agree with Shaheen, Warner, Warnock, and Ossoff in Georgia. That's 4. Fetterman gets you 5.
Yep.
And I'm just going through the map left to right. I mean, I think
Elise Slotkin may vote for it.
Oh, yeah. Slotkin.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Tammy.
Educate me. What's in it for these Democratic senators to give Donald Trump a huge victory?
Because
it's a reality.
Right. I just think, Mark, the flip side is you shut it down to get what?
There you go.
Like, what are you, it's like when Ted
to
Cruz,
force Trump, if assuming you can win the politics of the shutdown, which
but you
Democrats have, why
You
not?
can't.
Why not?
Because what are you asking for?
You're asking him to stop cutting programs that Congress authorized.
Okay, so that's like Ted Cruz saying Barack Obama is going to sign an ACA reform bill right after he just passed. It's not going to. Trump's never going to go there, and the
Neither are House Republicans.
right, and the public is on his side in terms of like cuts. Now you want to get into layoffs, you want to get onto it's a little bit different. But I just think for the party to go at the guy who has the megaphone, who has kind of control of the media environment right now, I think they're going to look at it and just say, we're not ready for this fight, and we aren't going to win it if we try.
What will the base of the Democratic Party say if 9 or 10 or 15 Democrats vote for this?
They'll be pissed off the way they are today. But you know what, Mark? So play that out. You don't vote for it, and then in 2 weeks or a week you fold, and they're going to be even more pissed.
Well, but not fold.
Look,
can't they get a concession from Trump?
On what?
I don't think so.
It's the CR. What are you going to? You're
That's
Tim
the problem.
Kaine, by the way, you're Tim Kaine or Mark Warner. I'm adding Kaine to my list.
Yep.
In Virginia, and you're going to say all these federal workers are about to literally not work. We're going to shut the government down because I'm fighting for a commitment that I know I'm not going to get, that I'm eventually going to roll on. I'm going to look like a loser. The House Republicans aren't going to give in to any of this. So I think this is not the hill to die on.
Mark, the only reason I changed my mind is if the House Republicans have to come to the House Democrats. I don't think they are. I think they're going to hold the line. And I just think they're going to see the train coming down the tracks and think we can't stop it.
All right. Exit question.
Although, by the way, those three not Tom Massey public no votes are very interesting. For Patrick, Tony Gonzalez, and Texas. It's like it's a very odd, eclectic.
I agree, but they'll get them all. All right. Exit question. 0 meaning 0 probability, and 10 meaning ontological certitude. What are the chances of a government shutdown this week? Sean.
8. Wait. No.
0. 2.
Yeah.
Dan.
4.
The correct answer is 1. 1.
Now, technically, remember, you can always have one of these Friday night and a Saturday morning.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, by Monday, there's no shutdown, just to be clear.
Oh, then 0.
Issue 2, it's Muskie. Elon Musk spent the weekend down in Florida, including having dinner reportedly with his pal Marco Rubio, as President Trump repeatedly said, nothing to see here. Everybody gets along great. Sean, is Elon Musk on his way out or riding high or somewhere in between?
I think he's closer to riding high than on his way out.
Dan?
I think probably maybe not. Yeah, I don't think his wings have been totally clipped. The problem for Republicans is he's their banker to some extent right now. Like, he put in all this money, he controls X. I very much believe that certain content gets kind of elevated versus other things on that platform. So if you are the one who goes to war with him, like, he has a way to get even. He does seem to kind of be irritable. He does seem to have a thin skin. And I think he really enjoys being in the limelight in politics. So I don't see him wanting to leave. And I don't see Trump wanting to run him out. Like, of all the people Trump has had, fallen out of favor with, this one's got a pretty big gun to point back at Trump.
Well, it's a billionaire thing. I mean, like they've got the money, they've got whatever, and the idea of being not just in the limelight, but like, this isn't the limelight is one thing. This is the light. Like,
all right, put up
all the light.
Put up 102, please. Politico did a nice little roundup this morning in their British newsletter of all the things that Musk has been up to. Rocky week, so I'm slapped down by Trump. Row with cabinet members. Rocket blew up. Made up with Rubio. He had a great exchange on X with Laura Loomer, who discovered that what's his car? Tesla. Yeah. Teslas have this feature that can sense if a dog is in the car and can make the temperature safe for the dogs. Tweeted about government fraud under Joe Biden, complained about elections in Romania, attacked the legacy media, and plenty more.
Boy, Mark, that sounds like a politician right there.
Yeah.
How do I get back in the good graces? How do I keep everyone ginned up?
Yeah. Sean, is anybody telling Musk what to do? Is Susie telling him what to do, or Vance? Anybody telling him what to do, or he does what he wants?
That was good. Sorry, that got me off guard.
Yeah.
No.
No. Okay. All right. The president last night talked on Air Force One. We're going to play a long soundbite showing you various things he said. Talk to the pool. There's an emerging line of argument from the left that says the tariffs, the Russia stuff, the budget stuff, that it's all about to come a cropper, and that Donald Trump's about to be just spiraling, political death spiral as everything falls apart. Roll 101, please.
Your supporters are attacking SCOTUS Justice Amy Coney Barrett. You put her on the bench. They're saying she's a DEI hire.
It's a question about Amy Coney Barrett.
Look, she's a very good woman. She's very smart. And I don't know about people attacking her. I really don't know. I think she's a very good woman. She's very smart. So I think the tariffs are going to be the greatest thing we've ever done as a country. It's going to make our country rich again. We have many companies, as you know, auto companies are opening up plants now. We've had 4 or 5 announced already, but many more are coming. And we're basically going to take back the money, a lot of the money that we've given away over many decades. We've lost our jobs, we've lost our factories. We've lost 90,000 factories since the beginning of NAFTA. It's not that long ago. 90,000 factories, think of that. And we're going to get them back, and they're coming back, and they're coming back in records.
Have you made a final decision about what sanctions or tariffs you might impose on Russia and when that might be?
We're looking at a lot of things. We have big meetings coming up, as you know, in Saudi Arabia. That's going to include Russia. It'll be Ukraine. We'll see if we can get something done. Like to get something done. A lot of people died this week, as you know, in Ukraine. Not only Ukrainians, but Russians. So I think everybody wants to see it get done. We're going to make a lot of progress, I believe, this week.
Is President Putin disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to
Who?
make peace there? Is President Putin disrespecting you by attacking Ukraine when you're trying to make peace there?
What did he do?
Well, he's attacking Ukraine.
Is he disrespecting me?
Yeah.
Who are you with?
Michael Burnbaum from Washington Post.
You've lost a lot of credibility. Go ahead. What else? Well, I don't think the tensions are high. Look, Elon's a very special person, and these cabinet people are special people. You know, these are
Sean, you think he knew that guy was from the
people,
Washington Post, or he really didn't know?
He
didn't know.
Attained the highest
He's
heights
not a
of
name.
government.
I mean, he's not.
And I think they have a fantastic relationship to Elon. And Doge has been incredible. You know, hundreds of billions of dollars of waste and fraud and abuse has been already found. And that doesn't mean they don't have a little bit of an argument here and there about something, or maybe personnel arguments. There's not too many contract arguments. You know, contracts have been found. This is much more than just personnel. I actually think really the cabinet, for the most part, I think they get along really well with Elon.
Dan, is this a man on the brink of collapse? And if not, why not?
No, he's definitely not on the brink of collapse, but I think he is entering a new phase of his presidency, which is the first, 6-7 weeks here. Congress wasn't really involved. He was doing what he wanted to do. He was controlling, kind of scripting. It's like a team that scripts the first 20 plays of the game a little bit. And now, like we're starting to see the impacts of some of these plays, kind of the shock and awe. They're not all positive. I mean, it's somewhat remarkable that Trump just admitted, as he has on a few occasions now, well, maybe not everything Doge has done is great. Some, he's saying it's small. He's admitting that the tariffs may cause some disruption and potentially some short-term economic pain, he's saying. So one, we're seeing the impacts. Two, Congress is about to kind of step forward here, and he's going to have to deal with them. He's going to have to use some capital. There's going to be ups and downs like we just talked about. And then three, the impacts of all of this action is causing some turmoil. So I think he's still strong. He still has a ton of positives. He's still a great political athlete. But, he's coming down just a little bit from a perch that was hard, it'd be impossible to maintain.
Sean, what are the big trouble areas or landmines in front of the president right now?
Well, I think each week you got to get over the next big hurdle, right? So they got to get this CR passed Friday night. And while we've kind of gotten used to the drill, it's still no small feat. And as I mentioned, it's disparate. Like last time you had sort of the Chip Roys and whatever who fell in line, but then others that were problem. This time it's Mike Fitzpatrick, Tony Gonzalez. I mean, it's like you're whack-a-mole every week. So I think that that's always going to be a problem. And then obviously you move right into the next piece of this, which is getting this big bill together. I will just say I was heartened by the comments on Amy Coney Barrett. And this is, in my opinion, I talked to a lot of people over the weekend prior to his comments who sort of, it's interesting, when people were concerned about Amy Coney Barrett's vote the other night, I think expressed themselves as we do as Americans. We had an issue with someone's vote or their policy or whatever. There were no protests at her house. There was no going after her and attacking her. The president obviously spoke very kindly and warmly of her last night. This is not what the case was when people were going to Brett Kavanaugh's house, when they were going to other Supreme Court justices' houses. And I think it was great to see the president make it very clear to everybody that, she gets, I like her. She's smart, which she is. And I think if you look at her decisions, they aren't out of left field for some crazy reason. She has a very strict view, it appears, as a layperson, of the role of the executive versus the legislative, the difference between Article 1 and Article 2. But I think it was great to see the president do that, and I wish the left had done that when Supreme Court justices.
Well, he didn't call off the dogs. He just kind of tried to play a little dumb and speak about her. I mean, that which is a little bit of a classic Trump
saying
play.
That she's really smart and I have a lot of respect for her does not sound like a guy who is encouraging people to do something.
Well, he could have. I mean, they asked him, "Are you aware about people, protesting her?" He said he wasn't aware. I'd be stunned if he was not aware of that.
Didn't get that much coverage.
The only way that happens at that level is, one, if you see it repeatedly on Fox News, which you don't because it's not true, and secondly, I think somebody goes in and hands them that story, but it's just not.
Yeah. So the last topic, and then we're going to get to your questions. Please raise your hand if you want in. The Biden administration, despite the fact that the president and the vice president were not particularly great spokespeople on the economy by most accounts, did not have economic spokespeople who went out and spoke with command about the economy. And in this administration, you've got, in addition to the president and the vice president, you've got the commerce secretary, who's been on TV a lot. You've got the treasury secretary, who went on cable news on Friday and spent 45 minutes without a commercial interruption trying to calm the horses on the economy, and by all accounts did a pretty good job. The markets were up on Friday, in part, I think, because of that and because of the respect he has in American business circles. And then this morning, the third economic spokesperson, Mr. Hassett, head of the National Economic Council, was on CNBC talking up the economy. 103, please.
I think that we've got very inelastic supply. That's why we've had these persistent trade deficits. And so the idea that American consumers are going to bear most of the tariff is just not economically literate, frankly. And it's got to be the only explanation for the persistent trade deficit is that we've got lots of inelastic supply. And so if we put a tariff on foreign countries, then their capital and their workers, they're going to bear a good chunk of that tariff. And I think that then what we're doing is we're changing the tax code so that we're lowering taxes on the taxes that Americans bear and increasing taxes on the taxes that foreign inelastic supply bears. And that's very bullish for America.
Dan, are these three economic spokespersons a major asset for the administration, or just for insiders and not in no significant way?
Look, I mean, they're good. I actually been most impressed with Howard Lutnick. I mean, he speaks bluntly, forcefully, and kind of very strongly that I think the average person would kind of understand. Look, the problem is you can only put so much lipstick on what you're selling. I mean, American people, like the other day when Bessent said, well, if cheap goods, like that's not really part, I forget what the exact quote was, but like cheap goods aren't really a major issue for us. Well, that is just simply not true. I mean, most people shop at Walmart, not Bergdorf Goodman. And I think that Donald Trump did not run all of 2024 saying, I am going to put tariffs on everything. We're going to have about a year or two of real pain and then come out the other end. He said the opposite. This was easy. This was like, I'm going to turn it around on day one. And I know he didn't literally mean day one, but he never, ever talked to the public about the kind of trade-off that we may go through. And when he did this in 17, people were very bullish on tariffs. You look at polling now across the board, and this is even true amongst Republicans, there is real nervousness after 4 years of inflation about trying this risk again. And I don't think the public has the appetite to potentially go through like this short-term pain, believing we're going to come out the other end with something really strong. Maybe not.
Sean, how are those three?
Fantastic. I agree. I mean, first of all, what a contrast. I mean, Janet Yellen, I didn't even know that people could have picked her out of a lineup at Treasury. And the idea that, all three of them in different ways. I mean, Dan's right. Howard Lutnick speaks with a bluntness. Watching him, it was like a ninja this weekend on some of the Sunday shows. He really put Kristen Welker in her place, rightly so, on a couple of these things. But Kevin, I think the way that when Kevin speaks, he's got a smile on his face. He has such a grasp of economics. I mean, God, I wish I had him in college. That probably would have helped my D go up a little bit. But there was an explanation that he gave on some of the different programs that he was on about the reality. There's this assumption by all these geniuses in the media that everything's going to go to hell in a handbasket. And one of the points that Kevin made on his one of the interviews that I thought was so excellent is, well, there's a choice, right? So it's not this that we're levying them. They can take them down. We can lower prices. We can make it more affordable for American goods, or the other side can take them down and make it cheaper overall. But there's this one-sided view of this. And it was funny because, talking about multiple aspects of this, I was dealing with a financial transaction at the end of last week. And the retailer told me that they said, well, we're talking to the buyer because technically the product comes from Canada and we're already figuring out. They're saying that they can absorb the tariff right now, but maybe we come to it. I mean, like, there's this assumption by everyone in the left-wing media that everything's going to turn out one way. And generally speaking, they're wrong. And so I think that my own personal experience last week showed that there's not a guaranteed outcome. I mean, it may be some of that, it may be part of it, but my point is that not every institution or outlet or establishment is going to handle the tariffs in the same way. Some governments may lower theirs. U.S. producers may benefit from that, opening up new markets to make some of our agricultural products available in Europe. I mean, there's a lot more to this than a very one-sided view that you're going to get from listening to a lot of these geniuses in the media.
Well, but even Kevin Hassett's answer, which we just played, was misleading, because in the long run, right, the country that produces those goods and services may lose market share, and that will impact that company and that worker. But is it totally disingenuous to say that Americans will not pay a price? Yes, Sean, there may be exceptions here and there, but as a rule, a tariff is paid by the consumer because the cost of the right, because the cost of the good on the other end is more expensive. And the point of that,
or they can lower it on that.
They can, but the reason you do a tariff is to make that good more expensive so that a domestic good can fill the void. If the domestic good exists, then that works. But as we always say, the example of the sweatshirt from Walmart, if it was produced in America, and I'm going to use this as a for instance, it might be $30 and it's $10 if it's made in Vietnam or China. That is a trade-off the country may choose. I will pay a higher price or find a way to make it cheaper in America. But it is just, it is false to say that this will have no consequence for the American consumer, that their goods will not likely rise in the short run.
Yeah,
I am just clear. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I'm saying that not everything is 100%. And you're making that point. I'm not disagreeing, but I'm saying if you listen to the NBCs and the Washington Post, everything's 100% the wrong way. And that's not
Agreed. The regular viewers of this program know there are 3 television catchphrases I work in at every opportunity. One is dynamite. One is come on down. And the third is here's Johnny. So, Johnny, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are what's on your mind.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Good to be back. I'm usually on with Chris Simmons, but I don't see him here today.
Maybe he'll pop up.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk about Elon. I'm out here in San Diego. It's still dark behind me. I'm retiring from the Navy this year. And I feel like a lot of the people that I know, my more liberal friends, I'm from Boston, so like I'm no stranger to liberal friends and family. I'm pretty middle of the road myself, but they have this view of Elon that he's like every other billionaire, dark figure that you can find, like a Scrooge McDuck type. Um,
Good
and
reference. Good Scrooge
I
McDuck reference. Yeah.
I just don't see that being the case with him. Like he in the last 3 months, I think he's lost somewhere between 150 billion and 175 billion dollars in his net worth. Um, I I think he's a once in a century talent, and I feel like in essence, part of the reason why I feel like he is so much in President Trump's corner this time around is not because he wants to line his own pocket, but I really think that just over the last, it's kind of been a trickle effect from the last couple of years where they don't invite the creator of Tesla to the electric vehicle White House symposium, and the California Coastal Commission decides they don't want to help him move SpaceX into the next phase of operations over tweets.
Yeah.
And I mean, like my wife just recently got home from deployment. I think, as you know, Mark, and I recently returned home from deployment, and we're on destroyers out in Fifth and Seventh Fleet, and we have all the most advanced communications technology in the world. And the one thing that allows me to call home, FaceTime my wife, and FaceTime my family is Starlink.
Yeah.
And I don't understand why they hate him so much. And
Yeah.
I don't
All right.
know.
So good question. So rather than either defending Musk or attacking him, Dan, you first. Why do you think it is? Johnny's question. Why do you think there's so much animus towards Musk? Whether you share it or not. Whether you share it or not.
No, I mean, well, there are two parts to this, right? There's Elon Musk, the business success story, right? And I agree with you. Steve, I mean, in 100 years, we will talk about during this period, Steve Jobs and Elon Musk, maybe the first two that come to mind, right? The iPhone, and then a guy who has, 4 different companies and 3 of which he took out of nowhere: Starlink, Tesla, SpaceX, and built something out of nothing. Amazing success stories. We want that in America, right? Even though he's from South Africa, only in America type of success and innovation that we should be proud of and want more of. There is then Elon Musk, the kind of Doge employee, and how he is going about things, and both the kind of style and substance of what he's doing. And I don't know if Democrats, quote, hated him before he got into politics, because the Tesla was a pretty cool status symbol in blue America, right? New York City, San Francisco, LA, like they were everywhere. It was like cool to be a Tesla customer. But I think, look, it's just like if a billionaire spent 300 million on Kamala Harris and she won. I think a lot of people on the right would knee jerk hate that person, right? Just because they used wealth that no one else or a handful of people in the world have to try to influence an outcome. And then he went into government, and by all accounts, it was kind of like he came up with a lot of these ideas just in the last few months, and is kind of taken a chainsaw to government to the point where even Donald Trump is saying we want more scalpel than sledgehammer. So, I get some of it, but I wish the party would not. I agree with you. We should not hate billionaires. And there are plenty of them, that are wonderful people, and success is a good thing.
Sean, what would you add to the explanation of why there's animus towards Musk?
Well, first of all, I want to commend Johnny. I think he put his finger right on the nose. And I think part of this is there's this sense among the left. I think it's part of it. It's a betrayal. Like, to Dan's point, we were there with you. We get, you built this Tesla. That was like, we were proud of it. And now you switch sides. It's the same reason they suddenly, Bernie Sanders hates Mark Zuckerberg. It's like, wait a second. He had no problem when he was spending hundreds of millions of dollars for your team. When he was censoring stuff, he was all great. And now suddenly, that he's being as transactional as he can as a crypto bro, that you don't like him anymore. And I think there's a sense of betrayal by that. But I think you put your finger on something, which is a lot of these guys who reach this level of status, and I've seen this more and more. Dan and I were talking about this before the show today. They feel like, I built all this. You guys shunned me when I tried to do it. You rejected me. I built something amazing and awesome. and then you don't invite me to your party. You don't invite me to your summits. You don't invite me. Like, okay, I'll go show you again what I can do. And it's, and I think there's a little bit of that in a lot of it's a little bit of FU with billionaires who basically say, I'll show you it wasn't a one-trick pony. I can keep doing this. And Elon, I mean, frankly, Trump's got a little of this. You look at a lot of these guys around him who were told, no, you're not good enough for our club. And they just keep going out there and proving them wrong, going, all right, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. I'll do it again. And I think that's where Elon is like, great, I'll show you all what I can pull off. But, I don't think it's as petty as I wasn't invited to your party, just to be clear. But I do think that there's a bit of like, when you're a billionaire, part of what makes you different is that you want to continue to excel. Like you give me $100 million, you're not going to see me Tuesday. I'm going to be on a beach. Like I'm out. For a lot of these guys, it's not that. I mean, the guy's still sleeping on a cot in a government building. This is not like a normal billionaire or a normal millionaire says, hey, I got a big house and I'm going to go get one of those dream mattresses. These guys are like, they're driven by success.
And don't underestimate how much government is intertwined in his businesses.
That's fine.
He is not I mean, look, he's one of the largest contractors to the Defense Department. He's a car company, so the government oversees a lot of safety issues. There's nothing wrong with that, but we don't want to pretend like he has no vested interest in outcomes with the federal government.
Where's the evidence he's making money from it?
Where's going the extra mile to make sure that there's no appearance of a problem?
Right.
Hey, Johnny, not that there's anything wrong with it.
By the way, Johnny, one quick point that I want to just throw on the discussion. Brendan Carr from the FCC pointed out, Biden did this whole thing to give the internet to millions of people, and they spend millions and billions of dollars trying to lay land. And you know how many people got internet? Like none. And yet the Starlink program is a known entity. To your point, it's used on ships. Media outlets use it.
That's money well spent. Do you know how many systems we have on a ship alone that are just wasted and just?
Johnny, we gotta move on. Tell us in one word, what's the first word that comes to your mind when I say Gavin Newsom?
Coming around.
All right. Johnny, thanks. We love having you on. Come back regularly. Thanks for waking up. Bobby, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind, please.
Well, a couple things. Mark, you need to get a black box warning on this show because it really is habit forming, and you need to warn people about that. Dan, I love you because you're a runner. As far as Ukraine goes, boy, we disagree horribly on that issue. But my real question for you all is, this is unusual circumstance. I guess it's happened once before, where a president has been elected for one term, taken a term off, and then come back to serve again. And as a thought experiment, I'm wondering to hear from all of you what difference it made this time, and how it would have been different had he succeeded, won the election in 2020 and served a second term versus skipping that. And in a lot of ways, I think skipping it is really going to benefit him. But I'm interested to hear your opinions.
Yep, we're all going to agree with you. Sean.
100%. God works in mysterious ways. I'll tell you, the greatest gift to President Trump, I think we're now realizing, is having him come back with 4 years in between. I've said it before, people, process, and policy. When you have time away, you're able to think. And he thought about the right people, the right process, and the right policies, and is now able to implement them. You don't have this kind of coming out of the gate that he has had in the past 47 days without having to be able to think about it. And it's not just that. The outside groups, the America First, Legal, the America First Policy Institute, Heritage Foundation, all were able to take a lot of the time in these 4 years and get ready. You could not have had this without the 4 years in between. And I believe that this will be the most consequential modern day presidency because of that.
Dan.
It's really well said. I mean, I completely agree. Just if you think about it, that 2020 election was such a grind and such a, confrontation that imagine having to then roll right into a second term. I mean, just so to Sean's point, you have 4 years off. And I agree with Sean. Trump has the possibility to be the most impactful president since FDR. He really does. As much as I don't like what he's doing, he might.
Yeah. And again, just to put a slightly finer point on one of the things Sean brilliantly said, the energy level is not like a second term. You think about second term Obama, second term Bush, second term Clinton, everybody's exhausted. Some people are leaving, some people are coming, staying. It's not like this at all. So it's the benefits of the energy of a first term with the experiential benefits and 4 years off to plan that's unique in modern history. So it may not work out, but there's a lot of advantages to him. And Trump himself is mused about that in some ways, he's better off having had the 4 years to be ready for a second term. Bobby, thank you for your kind words and thank you for joining.
You're very welcome.
Have a great
Stay
day.
addicted.
Stay addicted. Good. All right. Just give me a minute here. I'm having Jackie, welcome in. Thanks for coming back. Tell folks who don't know where you are, what's on your mind.
Good morning, everyone. I am from Pittsburgh, just outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I would like to talk all things appropriations. I would like you guys to do a show actually on I don't understand how I thought I did until now. I don't understand. Do they just give a chunk of money to say USAID or DHS, and then people within those departments say, okay, I'm going to give this much to FEMA, I'm going to give this much? Like, who's approving these payments? Because I remember a time when I've worked in business for over 30 years, soft technology. We had a little thing called Enron happen. If anybody remembers that. And then there was this thing called Sarbanes-Oxley, which is very onerous for businesses that probably necessary, no doubt. But there are rules that need to be followed when it comes to accounting. And it seems like the government, are they immune to that? Do they not have to follow that? Like, I'm just curious. And why in the world, when money is appropriated, especially for special projects, earmarks, if you will, why isn't a name or names from Congress tied to that appropriations? I want to know who is telling me, who is spending my money on things like, I don't know, pick one of the myriad of things that have been talked about. Because I'd rather have my money back. I think if you want to do that kind of thing, start a charity.
Yep.
Right?
Sean, go ahead and explain.
Okay, a couple things. On the budget, the way it works is that budget, right, will pass a 302A number, which is a big pot of money. And they will send that to the Appropriations Committee. And then there's 13 functions under the Appropriations Committee. So you got Homeland Security, Defense, Education. Again, I was trying to look it up as you were talking. And those functions then get a number, right? So you say, let's just say it was $100 is the 302A. We're going to give 100 to, we're going to give $100 and then we're going to give 10 of that to defense. And then defense says, great, we're going to give 30 to the Navy, 20 to the Army, 1 to the Marine Corps. And then those guys, what they call it's silly. It's called palming. Then they, within that saying, go down and illuminate how they would spend the money. In theory, you should be able to go down the budget functions and look at each line and say, okay, that's how much that gets. This is where it gets even more complicated, is that back in the day, you could see, they call them now member directed projects, earmarks. And they used to be able to say, within FEMA, I want $1.6 million spent on X. They got rid of member-directed projects for a while. They're coming back now. And the downside of the upside was we don't want members to, politically pick winners and losers. The downside was the bureaucrats could, because then you could go in and say, okay, as Dan has pointed out in the past, the appropriators definitely have a lot more hand in this, where they get in and say, we want, but there's still a good chunk of money that each, function gets. That's a lot of wishy-washy that. But even when I was at the U.S. Trade Rep's office, we would literally go down and we would have to allocate how much we wanted for travel, how much we wanted for staffing, office supplies, it depends on the size and scope of government, but then that number gets rolled up. In theory, you should be able to tell, like my office at US Trade Rep, I mean, I knew how much I had for travel, how much I had for office supplies. And, you know, there were ways that I could increase that, meaning I could go to the trade rep herself at the time and say, hey, you guys want us to travel for this additional event. Can you give us some money out of your budget? In theory, I mean, but yeah, it's a very complicated process. And as the agency gets bigger, right? So DOD or state, it's a lot harder to track, and you put a lot more bigger pots in. Ironically, the smaller agencies can track that number pretty close to the penny.
Yeah, and the one thing with earmarks as they were banned, the way that members of Congress kind of got around it was they would write letters to the agencies saying, we would hope, you know, this is what I would like to see, or the staff would pick up the phone and call the agency. And the agency is receptive as a rule because they have to come to you every year for their budget, right? So you're not going to blow off your bankers, so to speak, and just say, go pound sand. So, you know, does Congress know where every single dollar was spent? You know, no. But do they have a pretty good sense of where the vast majority is? Yes. And I go back to this, because the way the system works, it's a series of trade-offs. So you say, hey, if you support my project, I'll support yours. And that's how the kind of, you know, horse trading goes. And to some extent, it should go. But to your point, then, when it hits the fan publicly, everybody runs and says, I don't know who did it.
They used to say they still say there's three parties: Republican, Democrats, and appropriators.
Yeah. So you're saying, and it's my understanding that the inspectors generals, who I think have all been gone away until new ones are appointed, they had oversight over this, right?
No, they had oversight over. They had oversight over process, and they had oversight if somebody said something was like nefarious or something, they could look into it. But they did not just audit like every penny every day. Like,
they're like the whistleblower guys. So when you
Okay.
call and say, hey, somebody's siphoning gas out of the fleet of cars, they're the ones who send out. They have what they call a bunch of 1811s at their disposal. Those are federally sworn officers that work for them, investigators. And so they're the ones who are basically, like, for lack of a better word, like the internal affairs. Like, they go after waste, fraud, and abuse within a department, but they're not green eyes shade people entirely.
I would say they have failed miserably over the course of many years. But let me ask you this. So are you saying that you think that regardless of party, that most Congress people know where this money this money was being sent?
I mean, only the people. So I'm going to just, let's go with the condoms in Mozambique. And I forget if that's the real country or what, but
Right.
it's an example we all hear about, right?
Example.
So you'll have a foreign affairs committee, and then the foreign affairs committee will have a subcommittee on Africa. And then the subcommittee on Africa may have a handful of people that are focused on Mozambique. Do those 3 or 4 people probably have a sense of where that budget is? I bet their staffers do. Now, does the member? I don't know, but that's the way the system works, because there's all these committees, all these issues, and all these different slices of it. And again, when it goes up for the bigger vote, it's like, hey, I'll vote for your bridge if you vote for my condom bill.
Right. It just seems like they've abdicated a little bit of their.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
But there's also two pieces. There's the authorization, which allows you to spend money, and then the appropriators. I always say, like, mom and dad, can I go to the store? Yeah, ask your mom for the money. I mean, it's you have
Right.
one group that's now, and then you go back to this. It gets back to your bigger question, though, Jackie, which is, go back and read the CBO report that I mentioned the other day. There's literally billions of dollars that are appropriated, not authorized. There's actually a ton of agencies that are functioning today that are not authorized to do so.
Yeah, I think, and one of the arguments that I just about this whole Doge thing that I hate is, oh, it's only $1 million. Oh, they only found $200 million. Well, here's the thing. For me, sitting in Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, that I know eventually they're going to have to do something with Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare. I believe that. I don't think you can fix everything. But you know what? You better go after everything else before I'm getting close to retirement age, before you come after my retirement. You know what I mean? go after everything else. I hate that argument because $1 million to me, $50,000 to me is a lot. You know, it's just ridiculous the amount of money we're talking about.
It's insulting.
Jackie, you're speaking for tens of millions. Thank you for coming on. We love having you on. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, we're going to end a little early today, but let's run through some housekeeping. Sean, what do you have tonight?
It's a big week for us. Roger Stone kicks it off tonight. Caroline Levitt tomorrow. Steve Bannon on Wednesday, and Brendan Carr, the FCC commissioner, on Friday. Oh,
those are all.
That extra hour is going to kill me.
Those are all good guests. And Carr is a fascinating guy. I saw him in a recent appearance, and he's a fascinating guy, but all great, good guests. All right, lots going on two-way. Let me run through some stuff for you. Tonight, 5 o'clock Eastern time, Meghan McCain's happy hour is back with her guests, two guests that Dan loves, Sina Ghaznavi and Blair White. And Meghan will be wrapping up everything going on in the known universe. So join Meghan, please, 5 p.m. Eastern time. And then immediately after that, it is Two-Way Tonight, brought to you by the Bonson Group. Our guest tonight is Paul Growell, who's the chief legal officer of Coinbase. Coinbase is considered by many to be on the cutting edge of dealing with crypto and related issues in a way that is more understandable to people. He's an incredible explainer. So if you're an expert on crypto or you don't know a thing about it, please join us. Get your questions in. This guy is a great explainer. Coinbase recently had a case against them dropped. And so they are thinking a lot about how is Trump 2.0 different than Biden in terms of regulation of this emerging industry that many Americans are invested in both financially and emotionally. So join us tonight at 6 o'clock for that. Tomorrow, regular programs, this program at 9 a.m. Eastern time, Two-Way Tonight at 6. Then tomorrow night at 8 o'clock Eastern time, there are no more tickets left to come in person, but you can join us, not on YouTube. This will only stream live here on the Two-Way platform. So if you want to be part of Table 17, Table 17 is our new live program from the Olive Tree Cafe, high above the most famous comedy venue in the world, the Comedy Cellar. Please join Michael Moynihan, Noam Dorman, and I, and some special guests, including a rockin' band tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Eastern time, again, only on the Two-Way platform. And there's some other stuff coming up later in the week, but I'll save those teases for a later time. Sean, by 6 o'clock tonight, what will the top story be?
Sean Curran sworn in as new Secret Service director.
All right, that's a very cautious prediction. Dan.
By 6 p.m. Does that they have the votes in the House?
I don't think we'll know that by 6 p.m. The correct answer is Zelensky will either have signed or will be about to have signed the rare earth minerals deal.
Hasn't he been about to sign it for like a week?
I know.
Yeah, but it'll be explicit.
What about this? Canada's new prime minister weighs in on.
Canada's new prime minister, my college classmate, by the way.
Really?
Yeah.
Know him, or is he like?
Do you know too? He's the only person to have been head of two different countries'
central banks.
Reserves. Yeah, England and Canada.
He is from Western Canada, and he is wicked smart. That's all I'll say.
Wow.
For now.
I will be interested to see how a technocrat does in this job.
I agree.
Like you do, but
I agree.
Well, and how Wall Street's rebounded that it's not a liability to be a banker.
He got like 87% of the vote to become the head of the party and the new PM. So, and I'm, because of Donald Trump, he may win the election. Thank you all for joining. Very grateful to you. End a little bit early tonight. Sean's show, Megan's show, my show. 3 hours of fun. Make room in your schedule. And we'll see you soon. Have a good day.